Hi, everybody. I'm Barbara Robertson, and I'm joined here with Nancy Moorbacher tonight, and we're going to be talking about how to become an IBCLC and also how our 95-hour course might fit into this and any other questions you have that we might be able to help you with the process. So I would love to, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And if you all could just kind of in the chat, maybe tell us a little bit about where you're from, a little bit about your background, and then later on we'll certainly have time to answer any questions or anything that you have. So keep that in mind as well. But yeah, in the chat, if you could just give us a little bit of information about you, that would be great. I'm from Ann Arbor, Michigan. I have a private practice. I'm a private practice IBCLC there. And then I own the Breastfeeding Center of Ann Arbor, which is from my my private practice. And then Lacto Learning is my new business that I formed with Nancy to house all of our professional trainings. And so that's a little bit about me. Nancy, you want to tell them a little bit about you?
Yeah, I've been helping breastfeeding families for 40 years now, and I've worked in a variety of settings. I started as a peer supporter, a volunteer peer supporter. I worked 10 years in private practice in Chicago, where I'm from. I've worked for a breast pump company. I've worked for a corporate lactation program. In recent years, I've worked with hospitals, helping them to improve their breastfeeding practices. And I've written a number of books, including the book that we use in our course, Breastfeeding Answers, second edition, which is a textbook that many of the courses use, who are training lactation professionals.
Yeah, and another thing she did was she went to China and she developed a 95-hour training for them as well.
I did, yes. I've done a lot of international travel, speaking at events, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so before we get to your questions, I'm just going to go through, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to go through the process of how to become an IBCLC. And like I said, I just have found that a lot of the people, sorry, I want to scooch this. It's having problems moving. A lot of people who are interested in becoming IBCLC, they go to the website and it's just not as clear as it could be. So I do this kind of public service so that people can have a better idea, are they on the right track or not? And then also maybe our 95-hour course might fit into your lives and be a help to you. So we have that as well. All right, so this handout does not take the place of any actual confirming of the information. It is all taken from the IBLCE website directly. So basically, as an educator, I looked at everything they had and I put it in an order that made sense to me. So trying to make it a little clearer for all of us. So let's talk about some acronyms first. The first one is IBLCE. So IBLCE is the website that you go to, and that's the International Board of Lactation Consultant Examiners. And they are the independent board that actually certifies IBCLCs. Then we have ILCA and USLCA. ILCA is the International Lactation Consultant Association, and USLCA is the United States Lactation Consultant Association.
And they publish two of the journals that we use, and they are our professional associations, but they have nothing to do with the exam.
Exactly, they're separate. And then we have IBCLC, which is what Nancy and I both are, and that stands for an International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. And we are part of the healthcare team. We can work in a hospital setting, private practice, public health. So we can be in a lot of different places, but we are really the experts on lactation. And so sometimes we have doctors referring to us. Often we have families coming to us privately. And then in the hospital, we hopefully are in the birthing room and the immediate postpartum room and the NICU to help with any breastfeeding challenges that may come up and just get the breastfeeding off to a good start. So in order to become an IBCLC, you need 4 things. You need prerequisite education in the health sciences. You need clinical experience in providing care to breastfeeding families, and there are 3 different pathways. You need education in human lactation and breastfeeding. That's where our courses come in, because you need 90 hours of lactation education and 5 hours of communication skills. We've got ours all built into a 95-hour program. And then once you have all these things done, then you get to apply for the exam. So there's a lot of lag time. For instance, if you want to take the exam in the fall, you have to apply for the exam in the spring. People who wanted to take the exam in April, May, they had to apply by the end of November. So there's this lag. Then there's another lag. Once you take the exam, there's usually a 4-ish month lag time before you find out if you passed it or not.
Right.
So it's pretty ridiculous, but we're not in charge. So, just be aware of that. And then, so once again, you get these first 3 things done, you can apply for the exam and then you pass the exam. So let's take a look at the health sciences, the education. So you need 14 subjects. If you are a nurse, if you're a dietitian, if you're a dentist, if you're a speech language pathologist, if you're a doctor, there's a lot of there's a list of people who are grandfathered in, the assumption that you have this. These courses, especially the 8 higher education, could be done whenever. It could have been done 30 years ago, right? It just needs to have been done sometime in your past. All right, so let's look at the 8 college courses. So there's biology, human anatomy, human physiology. If you can find human biology, however, it can triple dip for biology, human anatomy, and human physiology. And I know my local community college offers human biology. You need infant and child growth and development, nutrition. Number 6 is psychology or counseling or communication skills. You need introduction to research, and you need number 8, sociology or cultural sensitivity or cultural anthropology. Again, those can have been taken 30 years ago. They do have to be from an accredited university of some sort. So like, again, Washtenaw Community College, my local community college, it's fine, but it can't be from, Joe Blow University. You need to make sure it's an accredited university. Then you need 6 additional continuing ed courses. Again, they say there's no time limit on these, but I don't know. I thought that, basic life support, you need to have that when you reapply. But you need basic life support, medical documentation, medical terminology, occupational safety and security for health professionals, and then 5 professional ethics for health professionals, and number 6, universal safety precautions and infection control. So you need the 8 college courses and then these 6 continuing ed. And that is the prerequisites in the sciences. And then down here, you can see here's a list of people who are assumed to have those things. So if you're one of these things, it's like, they're like, check, you're fine to go. So that's the first piece of things you need. Now, this piece can be done in parallel with taking your 95-hour course and or your clinical hours. All right. So you could have them all done first, or you can be taking them in parallel. I do a lot of mentoring, and often my people I'm mentoring, my mentees, they need to have at least a few of these, and we figure out a schedule on how to get them done. Number 2 is the clinical experience providing care to breastfeeding families. And this is the biggest stumbling block for most people. Obviously, if you're a nurse working in the hospital, labor and delivery, you're going to have this, or postpartum. If you're working in public health, if you are, a peer counselor, then it's easier. But, if you're like, I would really love to become an IBCLC, but I'm in childcare, or I'm in, a different kind of area, speech pathology, but I don't work with babies, then this can be really tricky. So there are 3 pathways. The first is pathway 1. And pathway 1 is it's 1,000 hours. It can be done with volunteer services or your current work. It needs to be in the past 5 years. And
Before taking the exam.
before taking the exam. And then it just wants to make sure that you are actually providing some care. This is your practice, your clinical practice. All right, so pathway 1 candidates, you need the college courses and the continuing ed we just talked about, the education in human lactation and breastfeeding, 90 hours, but you also need 5 hours of education and 1,000 hours helping breastfeeding families. And so both Nancy and I, we got our clinical hours in our peer-to-peer support roles.
Right.
And so that is how we got our hours back in the day. I'm a IBCLC that offers pathway 3 mentoring, and we'll talk about that in a minute. You only need 500 hours for that because it's directly supervised by an IBCLC.
So the 90 hours plus the 5 hours in communication skills, which is part of our course.
So pathway 2, there are certain college institutions, higher education institutions that offer a built-in, they say it's built-in, but it's not actually, but the 95 hours of lactation education and communication skills with the clinical hours. The problem is that you have to find them yourself. So this, you only need 300 hours, which is great, but then you have to find those hours yourself.
And there's very few of these programs.
Yeah, there are very few of these programs. At the point that I did this, which was a while ago, there were 4. I think that it's similar to that now. I don't think we've really added many, but you can see these. And so you'll have to have all of your science courses done first before you sign up for one of these. And then you're going to be taking the 90 and plus 5, so 90 hours plus 5. And then you'll be doing your clinical hours, and you need 300. And again, it sounds really appealing, but sometimes it can be harder to find those 300. Pathway 3, you still need all your sciences. You still need the 95 hours of lactation education, including communication skills. And this is 500 directly supervised hours. And the trick about this is it has to be directly supervised by an IBCLC. And for instance, I've done this, I've mentored many people. Nancy has mentored people in the past, and it can be wonderful, wonderful relation. I love to have somebody with me while I'm working. It keeps me on my toes, but then you have to find that person, who's going to provide this. It can be more than one person. It could be many people, but you have to actually apply for pathway 3 and say who your mentors are going to be. You can add mentors as you go along, and it's a much more official kind of, there's more paperwork involved, and you can't start collecting hours until your pathway has been approved. Yeah,
I have a friend who's the director of lactation in a hospital in New York, and she brings on people to help her on the floor. They put together kits for the nursing mothers. They do sort of the grunt work for her, and that counts as part of their hours.
Exactly. And so for my course, I have people doing follow-up calls and, helping in their peer-to-peer support groups, and, then they attend consultations with me. So different ways that people can get those hours. All right. And so that's the clinical hours. Then you need the education in human lactation breastfeeding. This is the most straightforward piece. It's the simplest piece. And we offer a self-study 95-hour course, which is all online with monthly check-ins that are offered. And then we offer our group training, which is partially online and then partially live Zoom, partially online, partially live Zoom. Once you have all these things finished, then you can apply for the exam, the IBCLC exam. And then you wait and you study. You're going to have to study for this exam, and then you take it, and then you have to wait to find out if you passed or not. So that is the basic process. So let's go ahead and stop there, and let me answer any questions and thoughts. So any specific questions? Yeah, go ahead, Dana.
Yeah, so the piece about being a nurse, just to clarify, do we need to go back on our transcripts and check for each of those courses, or
No,
all of
If
them?
you are if you're a nurse, it's assumed that you've had the education.
right.
Plus the 6 additional, like, okay, cool.
No, yeah, they assume you've had all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're a nurse, you've got that checked. Yeah.
Good.
All right. Other questions, thoughts that people have? Anna or Janet?
So how long does the process, would you say, from the time somebody starts it to finishing it usually take? Then that probably adds up.
It really depends. So like, let's say you are a nurse working in a hospital with mothers and babies already. Maybe all you need is your 95-hour course.
Mhm.
And so then it could be quite quick for you.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if somebody is coming to, let's say, be a mentor, I'm mentoring them, it's usually a 2 to 3 hour process, because often they do need some of the health science courses.
Do you mean 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, I'm sorry, 2 to 3 year process.
Okay.
I don't know what I said.
You said hours.
Yeah, sorry. So it's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
And of course, it depends on how busy the practice is, and it depends on how flexible the person is who is taking. You know, because if somebody could attend all of our consults that we had each week, I'm sure that that's 20 hours, you know, but most people can't make their schedules fit our schedule exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it is, and if you think about it, it really is like a master's degree or something, you know, it's a major commitment, and there's a lot of learning to do. A common question people ask me is like, well, Barbara, should I take my 95-hour course at the beginning of my clinical experience or at the end? I think at the beginning, so that you're a more valuable volunteer or prospect.
Right.
Say,
My friend I mentioned, who's the director of lactation at a New York hospital, she only accepts her interns after they've completed their 95 hours.
right.
And maybe we should say a few words, Barbara, about what sets our 95-hour course apart from others.
Yeah, I was going to do that in just a minute. I wanted to make sure there were not any more questions about the process of becoming an IBCLC. Yeah, because there are not very many comprehensive 95-hour courses that are out there now. There are a couple of opportunities where you sign up, and basically that what you're signing up for is 95 hours of PowerPoints.
Right.
And you're literally going to just watch PowerPoint after PowerPoint after PowerPoint.
Yeah. And that was something we decided we wanted to do differently. Barbara has a background. She has a master's in curriculum development. And one of her areas of interest is adult education. And she knew from her studies that isn't the way people learn best. And it certainly isn't a great way to change behavior, you know, in clinicians who are getting their education. So we created a dynamic learning environment that includes a lot of different learning modalities, you know, podcasts, videos, animation, you know, websites, blogs, all kinds of different things, so that you know, it makes it for people who learn different ways. There's tools and strategies for everyone.
Yeah, so let's take a quick look at it. You know, one of my passion is that when people are done with our courses, that they are going to go be better practitioners. I want people to be successful in reaching their infant feeding goals and feel good about themselves. And so what I was seeing is that when you're passively just watching material, not much is going to change. And so when I'm thinking about my courses, it's like, okay, so in the area of, say, development and nutrition, I've got infant stuff here. Yeah. And it's like, okay.
Let me just mention that the way our course is structured, some of you may or may not have seen it, but the IBLCE requires that you cover the topics in its detailed content outline. And as far as I know, ours is the only course that is actually structured to exactly correspond to this detailed content outline.
So this is what, yeah, it's not taking me there. This is what the IBLCE
Yeah.
is going to be testing you on.
Oh,
These
there
are
you go. You got it.
the subjects. And so Nancy and I, when they came out with this new blueprint last
Yeah.
summer, which just
Yeah.
went into effect, we're like,
Yeah.
we're going to have a course that exactly follows this.
Yeah.
So that
We
when
had
you,
we had a student who said, you know, if you want to create a course that's really valuable, you'll create it using this outline, you know, as your guide. And we thought, well, that's really inspired. So that was exactly what we did.
yeah, and this is for our self-study. Our group training is a little different because a lot of the subjects are more intermingled.
Mhm.
Because we're having discussions about it, doing assignments about it. But for this one, we really wanted to not only have it provide the information we thought was valuable, but then help you prepare for the exam too. Let's double dip. And
Yeah.
so,
this is the 2023 detailed content outline that our course is based on.
Yeah.
And there's 175 of these individual areas that needed to be covered.
yep. And so we have a lot of them. And
Yeah.
so the other thing that we included in these is that we want you to have the things that we feel like are going to be useful for you later on. For
Right.
instance, there's a group called the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine, and they have a bunch of protocols. And so we list those protocols, we utilize those protocols.
Right.
So then when you are practicing later, you are familiar with those protocols,
Right.
which we
Right.
feel like is very valuable and useful.
Yeah. These are the resources you'll be using. And then also our course, let me get my book here. Our course, the cost actually includes my book, Breastfeeding Answers. I guess I'm in reverse here, but it's you get a PDF version of the book with your course fee, and there's reading from the book that's included also. But this also is a book that most clinicians, you know, are familiar with and use in their practice.
Right. It's what hospitals use. It's what public health uses.
Right.
So Nancy has written the textbook. And so here is the introduction for the section 1A. And at the beginning of each section, we have our reflection questions. These are things that we want our learners to be thinking about as they go through the materials. And then, of course, we have our objectives at the top. And then throughout the whole things, there's different things. For instance, so this one, it has a video of the breast crawl, and then we've got some other videos that we want you to think about. And then we have some text here. And then we have the readings from Nancy's book, The Breastfeeding Answers, second edition.
Mhm.
So again, we have a mix of materials that are available to you. The other thing that we do offer as well is we offer a monthly check-in for all of our students. And what we want is them to be able to, if they have time, attend these live sessions. It's question and answer, but then Nancy and I also discuss the different sections so that we are having a discussion about the materials as well.
Right.
So just doing things very differently.
Right. So there's ample opportunity for you to interact with us during
Exactly.
the process and send us your questions. We have one student right now who's been sending us her list of questions, and we've actually made videos just
We made a
answering
separate
her
video.
questions and putting them up on our platform so that she can see our answers in detail.
Right. Well, we also think if she had questions, probably other people do too. So up here in our welcome and introduction, you can see down here, here's our first check-in that we did, and we're discussing section 1A. And then the next check-in we did 1B. Then here's a bonus check-in where we answered all of her questions.
Right.
So we're just trying to take the opportunities to give our students, again, as many ways to try to think about the subjects as possible, and then some interactions. And you also do have 2 comprehensive assignments that will need to be done and turned in to help hopefully integrate and help you apply the information in a way that will make it all stick a little better in your head. So hopefully then we can use it with clients.
And each section has quizzes that will help you prepare for the board exam by taking the quizzes as well.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, any other individual questions? Yeah, Dana, go ahead.
Speaking of the board exam, how is that structured? I know you had a little blurb about it at the bottom there, but like, what is the format of the test?
It's a multiple choice test. And it takes about, they give you about a half a day to complete it. It comes in 2 sections. One section is just multiple choice. The second section involves images that you have to answer questions about.
Yeah, and so they give you 4 hours and it's 150-ish questions.
I think it's 100, around 170.
175 something.
Yeah, I just took it last year.
Yeah.
For the 4th time.
I never have to take it again. I can take it with my CERPs, which makes me happy because
I was lucky enough to have become certified in the year that was the last year that you were required to retake the exam. So
yeah, Cheyenne, what's your question?
My question is, when you were showing us those monthly check-ins, is that part of the group study or the self-study or either?
That's a self-study.
we only were looking at the self-study.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the group training is 23 hours of pre-work and it's a lot of assignments. And so like you read some material or watch some material, blah, 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 and then you do something with the material. It's a much more interactive way of learning. And then there's 3 live Zoom days where we get together, we have group discussions, we do activities together, breakout rooms, we have parents join us, and then we do 23 more hours of pre-work, and then another live 3 days of
So it's three like full days.
Yes, 3 full days. And so it's and that's what I originally designed, because as an educator, I do think having those times for discussions are the most effective way, but some people it's not. And also some people can't do that. And so becoming up with
They don't have
study
3 days in a
model,
row. Yeah,
that they're able to do this, or they're on a different time zone. And so literally they just can't do it. And so although education wise, it's probably my favorite baby, but it's a baby that not everybody can participate with. And it's not the best for everyone.
We do our best to be interactive, through our check-ins and such through the self-study course as well.
Exactly.
We do know the value of that.
Right. And so that's the reflection questions and then the assignments and then our check-ins. We're trying to provide those opportunities as well. It's just not as extensive.
Do you find that most people then have to, by choice or, if whatever their circumstances, do the self?
So we just launched the self-study in the summer. So the answer is
July.
The answer is we're not sure yet. Our current students are very happy with it. We've had one person finish already, another person's very close to finishing. We give people a year to finish our self-study, but our hope is more like 4 to 6 months. Yeah. So a timeline of the self-study, it's up to you. You have 95 hours of material, so it's really up to you. I would encourage you, having done a lot of online learning myself and failing at most of it, I would encourage you to literally set aside a few hours every week, where this is devoted to that, like a 4-hour chunk. Yeah, and so the group study, a timeline with the group study. So for instance, here, I'll just go ahead and pull up what we're going to be doing in the fall. I am so busy with teaching the spring that we actually decided that we were going to delay. We weren't going to have our spring group training because I just am so busy with teaching with other things. So the group training, we have a nice little graphic, and this is all our website. So this is a nice little summary of the group training and what we do. And so you can see we have 25 hours. It's actually, I think, 23 hours of pre-work. And this is where we do lessons, videos, articles, podcasts, more. And then we have assignments. And then we get together for 3 full live days, and then more pre-work, and then 3 more days. And so our dates that we're going to be having this, we're going to open our pre-work August 15th, and then our 3 live days. Our first ones are October 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then we'll have more pre-work, and then we'll have our second weekend in November. So we try to pace it out for people. And I will say the group training is a lot of fun. What we find though is that, again, people either the schedule is not right, or the time zone is wrong, or that's not the best way for them to learn. So we're having people really choosing both. I think that it's really wonderful to have 2 options. So yeah, other thoughts or questions about what we're offering or the process? Because we are here to try to best answer your questions. Yeah, go ahead, Dana.
Is there a structured or organized way of finding the mentorship, or do you just kind of have to look around for people that you can find that would be willing to?
So it depends on what your goals are. So for me, if I have somebody who comes to me, is like, Barbara, I want to open a private practice in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I'm not going to feel terribly inclined to mentor them, because that would be direct competition. But if they're like, Barbara, I'm in public health, I need some clinical hours, or Barbara, I'm hospital based, you know, and so I need to get some hours that way. Then, or like I have a person, she's in Taylor, so she's far enough from me that it's like, great, we need more IBCLCs. I have another person who's in Detroit. So another great way, I think, is, so look in the phone book, you know, maybe if you're the phone book, oh my God.
I was going to say, does anyone have a phone book anymore?
Nobody has a phone book anymore. Look
I
on
know
the
I
internet. But also going to like a local coalition, breastfeeding coalition meeting could be a
yes,
good way.
yeah, that's better than a phone book for sure.
Yeah. And then because you're a nurse, you know, you might be able to shadow in the hospital and get some hours in a hospital
Yes,
as well.
Yeah, I'm currently been at home with my 2 girls the last 5 years or so. So my experience now has since been lost. But yeah, that's an option to reach back out into contact from hospital. I just didn't know if there was like a way to like put out a request, or people put out like, I'm willing to. I didn't know if there was a more structured way of finding, just kind of calling around.
On the USLCA website, well, and I think it's ILCA actually, now that I'm saying it, I think on the ILCA site, international, they have a place for mentors that you can look for it, but they make it difficult to become a mentor. And they're like, oh, in order to be an official mentor. I'm like, don't you just want people to mentor? Why are you making them jump through hoops? So I don't know how successful they have been at having people sign up.
Yeah, I think your local coalition sounds like a great place to go, because then you're going to meet the breastfeeding coalition. So you're going to meet people from all different settings, and you know, ask them for recommendations of people in the area who might be willing to mentor you. You know, the fact that you've had a hospital experience is excellent, because, you know, like my friend who mentors people in, you know, in her lactation department, you might be able to find a local hospital, you know, who'd be willing to do something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And somebody asked how much time is allowed for the pre-work. For the group training, we give either 5 or 6 weeks. So that means you do need to be doing 4 or 5 hours a week to get everything done. All right. And so it also here in the chat, Janet says, did you say earlier we can get some of our hours online with you? No, I think you misunderstood that. Yeah. So yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I wish it was easier, because we're always saying that we need more IBCLCs, and I think that's absolutely true. But yet it is tricky. Now, does everybody need to be an IBCLC? No, not necessarily. I have many doulas, nurses, midwives take our course. because they just want to be better at helping their population.
Right.
They don't necessarily need the credential.
And when you take either the self-study or the group training, you do get initials to put after your name. The CCLS is
Right.
the initials. And, you know, for some hospitals, they might consider that a plus, you know, if you decide you want to go back to work in the hospital.
Right.
But that is a lactation credential that you receive from our course.
Yeah, you become a clinical and communication lactation specialist.
Right.
And I do have many nurses who just are looking for that. They don't necessarily need to become an IBCLC. So there are a lot of different ways that it can look. All right, so other thoughts or questions before we move on, we end our meeting. So anything else? Anna, I don't know if you can type. Oh, I guess Anna is done.
We lost, oh, there
Oh,
she
no,
is.
she's back. Yeah, I don't know if Anna or Janet's been asking most of her questions in the chat. All right. Well,
Can we
thank you. Yeah, go
email
ahead.
you if we have any questions in the future? Are you okay with that?
Yes, you absolutely can. I might be like, I don't know the answer,
Sure.
or it's too complicated.
Barbara usually
yeah,
knows the answer.
I do try as like a public service, because I do think we need many more lactation helpers.
Yeah.
And so trying to make this more accessible to people is one of my goals and Nancy's as well.
Definitely.
So yeah, so feel free to reach out in
Yeah.
the future.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, just especially since you're local, I'd love to. I'm just beginning to thinking of this as an option for me. I loved working with moms and babies in the NICU, especially with their lactation. And then, you know, I had some challenging experiences with my 2 girls. So it's something I'm considering, but at the very early stages. So I thought it would be, you know, kind of pick your brain, especially with the local, like what's going on around here. So.
Yeah, my guess, I mean, especially, I don't know if you're looking for work yet, but I think the 95-hour course plus your passion and your RN could help you get a job in the field. And then what they would want you to do is become an IBCLC often, at least in our area, you know, but they'll give you the time and space to do that.
Okay. Oh, so you could get hired before you're certified? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That would be with that CCLS. After getting the education, you could get hired with that CCLS certification.
It is possible, yes. It depends. Different hospitals have different rules, but I know right now I have a whole cohort. So I have different hospitals where somebody took my course and then they've told their friend and then they told their friend. And so I'll have like 5 to 10 nurses now in a hospital. Cleveland Clinic is one of them. And then what's the cancer specialty place out in Minnesota?
Mayo Clinic.
Yeah, the Mayo Clinic. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a lot of nurses, and one just happened to take my course, and she's like, it was amazing. And so now everybody's, and so they didn't become IBCLCs, they just needed the CCLS. And so they're able to work as nurses with the CCLS with lactation. But different hospitals have different rules. And so you have to check into what does your local hospital want. Like my one local hospital would never hire a non-RN IBCLC. My other hospital does all the time.
Yeah.
So
I'm local. We can,
Yeah, I was gonna say too, Dana, because I saw that you're Michigan. I don't know if you're Ann Arbor area as well. So am I by chance too. But yeah, so I was just looking around too, and I did notice that on some job postings, they did well, not all of them, but a few of them said RN and IBCLC.
Right.
Okay.
So St. Joe's is the one that hires non-RN. Henry Ford will hire non-RN. I'm pretty sure Botsford hires non-RN.
Yeah. And my friend I mentioned in New York, who's the director of lactation, actually is not an RN, and she was hired to manage the whole department. So it really does depend on the institution.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas University of Michigan wants you to be an RN. They don't care. It's like,
Oh, they don't care either?
No, they do care. They don't.
Oh, I
care
was gonna
for-
say, that makes sense. I
Yeah,
knew
they
you-
don't care if you're an
Or they wanted to know
IBCLC.
now.
They just care about the RN. So,
Okay.
all right. Well, thank you all for joining us. We very much
Yeah.
appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording.